Okay. Hi guys, this is Nick or Pokebunny recording my first game FPVod. I already recorded a VOD of this build I'm going to be using. This is a Protoss versus Terran build that I call 1015 gate pressure. It's strongest on maps like Medusa, which is going to be the map here. By the way, Neo Medusa has been released. The more Terran-friendly Neo Medusa is out. So yeah. The reason Medusa is such a good map for this build is because the chokes at the natural and even the main are very wide and easy to pressure. My opponent in this game, as I just showed, is going to be a teammate of mine, Ziff, who is actually a Protoss player. One thing this game is going to really demonstrate is the power of this build against lower level Terrans, such as, Amazon Basin, probably, qualifying groups, fodder group, could probably get a lot of success with this build. So first off, a couple simple techniques and things that I used at the start of the game. First of all, when I split my probes, at the start, I use a technique called cloning, which is rather than clicking on each individual probe and splitting it off, I use the shift deselect method of holding shift and clicking the unit frame in the bottom. And this results in more accuracy because it's easier than just clicking the small probes as they move to the mineral patches, which can sometimes be pretty difficult. So yeah, as I said, in the build, I'm not going to scout very early this game. By the way, I think you should always try and watch the build videos of these games first, especially if you don't really know the build at all beforehand, because in these games I'm going to less explain the build and more explain how I adapt to what's going on and like what I do rather than just, playing the start of the build before I really know what my opponent's doing. So, now I'm scouting, and, I scouted a little later in this than I did in the build. I guess that's mostly just because I forgot. So now, also, another thing I messed up a little in this build is I get my second gateway a little bit late. But that doesn't really matter because you won't use the second gateway right when it finishes. So yeah, I'm getting range first, as I explained in the build. That allows your second and third Dragoon to get there around when range finishes. So now I've scouted him at the top left, and the first thing I will notice is that his wall is faulty. If you don't know this yet, the way you make a wall is you want to have the supply depot either to the top or right of the barracks to block probes and zealots. To block zerglings, you need to have it only works with the supply on the top. Two supplies next to each other will block zealots and probes either way, but will only block zerglings up if the two supply depots are up and down. So now my first Dragoon is out. I saw his scout go onto the cliff above my main, so I'm just going to chase it back there. As I said, the first Dragoon you can't really do much pressuring with if he makes a couple Marines early on. So I'm just microing so I get hit as the smallest amount as possible by the SUV. One thing you might notice on the minimap right now that is one of my big fails in this game is my Dragoon is trying to go through the neutral temples, to get over to his base. That's one thing you will want to always watch for while playing Medusa, is that if you get units on the cliff, such as worker transfers from your third base or to your third base, often the units are really stupid and will get themselves stuck on that cliff, which can lose you a lot of time. As you can see, my third Dragoon is going to lag behind a lot as I reach his base, but it doesn't seem to matter that much, I guess, in this game. So, yeah, I'm just adding pylons, continuing to make Dragoons. Just add pylons when you feel it's comfortable, and really try hard not to get stuck on pylons, because that is one of the main things that can defeat his build. So now I notice he's got 3 Marines, so I'm just microing away from them. This game is on land latency, by the way, so you probably won't be able to perform this kind of Dragoon Micro on Battle.net. So now his tank is out. So I'm backing up because tanks have a slightly longer range than Dragoons. Very little, a tiny bit longer when the Dragoons have range. So I'm just picking off his SCVs and rushing in to attack his tank if it gets too close. So I'm attacking his supply depot, and looks like I'm gonna break through. So as I said, he's got siege mode now, but I've broken through his wall. With this build, if he gets siege mode, while his wall is still up and like it's not close to falling, your pressure is gonna be pretty much over because the siege mode behind the wall with repair is pretty much unstoppable to a very large up to an extremely large amount of dragoons. So now I've gotten in his base and I've killed his tanks. Well, yeah, it's very hard for the Terran to repair the wall fast enough while still keeping his tanks alive. And that's, I think, the thing that is great about this build. So now he has to pull his SCVs out, and I'm just microing, I think, pretty well away from the SCVs, trying to take as little damage as possible as I pick off his tanks, Marines, and SCVs. So now I pretty much got Dragoons all over his base, and I'm at a huge lead at this point. Soon I'm going to expand. You might notice I have a little more minerals than I should. I should have expanded earlier, but my multitasking obviously is not perfect. He's trying to reconstruct his wall so no more Dragoons can get in, but that's pretty much hopeless at this point. So as he loses this last tank, the game will pretty much be over, as he just suicided all his SCVs. So I'm sending a probe out to my natural, because I noticed that my money's getting a little bit high. So yeah, there's not much else about this build. This build didn't really demonstrate the follow-up as much as the actual power this build has. And I guess this is really the point you want to win the game, because this Dragoon pressure early on cuts your economy quite a bit. While it may seem like the 2 or so probes that this build ends up cutting is not very much. Early on, it makes a lot bigger difference simply because those probes will be mining for longer and you can use that money earlier. So I'm gonna add a robotics facility now for observers, and then a Citadel of Dune for zealots and zealot speed, but I don't really need this as this game is already over. One thing you might notice is that if your Dragoon pressure is going well, you can just keep making Dragoons. Don't cut any Dragoons for an expansion. Just continue to make as many Dragoons as you can and expand when you gain the money. So that's basically what happened in this game. Hopefully this helps you see how strong this build is in a real game. I'm sorry that it didn't show the follow-up as much. Thanks. Bye.